All right, welcome back. So we did the data binding in the last video, and I kind of wanted to make that a separate video because that's kind of like the cool, like Angular side of things, right? And so that's how you tie things together. Now what we're going to do in this video is we're going to just make things look a little better, right? I mean, it doesn't look very good. And what we're going to do is normally we're going to use a library called Angular Material 2. If you want to kind of go look up Angular Material 2, you can type it in. Looks like I was doing some weird search there. And Angular Material 2, it's a library that's made by Google, the Angular team, and it implements material design for you, right? And so we're going to use it for like almost everything we do in this class. Like the only times you're not going to use it is like this app, right? But I also wanted to show you that you don't have to use Angular Material 2. You can use any CSS framework you want. You use Symantec or Bootstrap or whatever you like. And in fact, Bootstrap is what we're going to use in this app. Bootstrap has been around for a long time. It is a library for doing CSS and JavaScript work to make your UIs look better. I like it a lot. I've used it for a long time. And we're just going to use it in this app just to kind of make things look better and to also keep things simple. Speaking of keeping things simple, we're going to only use the CSS that Bootstrap provides. We're not even going to set up the JavaScript stuff. Their label Bootstrap 4 is coming. Yeah, that's been up there for years now. So let's go get ourselves a different theme for Bootstrap. There's a lot of different themes out there that you could use. Bootswatch has some that are free. So their site has kind of been the same for many years, but they've got some themes that give you some options to make your Bootstrap look a little different. So here's what I want you to do. Scroll down on this page until you find paper. So it kind of has a material design look, but it's still Bootstrap. And what I want you to do is I want you to click on this download button, the arrow, and then I want you to right click on Bootstrap Min CSS. So right click on it and say copy link address. And what we're going to do is normally this site expects that you'll download it and you'll serve it with your page. We're going to cheat, right? We're just going to use their deployed copy and it's going to make our life a little easier. So I'm just going to copy the link, not download it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come stick that into my index.html. So now I'm in my index.html file. While I'm in here, the first thing I'll notice is that there's no space right there, so I'll kind of fix that. That was unrelated to what I was trying to do. And then one thing that you can do here, which is nice, is you can just add a style sheet, just like you've been able to add style sheets for years. So you say link, and then you put on attribute on for what it's for. So this is a style sheet. And then you say where you're getting the style sheet from. And that I'm just going to paste in that Bootswatch paper, Bootswatch, or bootstrap.min CSS. And now I've actually got access to their CSS inside my app. You should be able to see a difference just from that one thing, which I think is kind of fun, as soon as mine reloads. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you don't really see a change yet. You'll see a change here in a little bit. That kind of surprised me, but life goes on. So we've added this style sheet into our index.html. Now we have the ability to use Bootstrap CSS features, right? So that's what we're going to go do. So the first thing I want to do is in Bootstrap, there was a thing called nav header. So it's over in their components. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here just so I can get their side list here. If you want to look at the documentation with me, you can. I just like to point to where I get things from. And it's from getbootstrap.com/components. And the nice thing about Bootstrap is that even if you're using a weird theme, a lot of your stuff is going to be the same. Every bit of your stuff is going to be the same as what it says here in their documentation. So we're going to add I'm just going to go down to Inverted Navbar. And so what I'm going to do is I just want to add an Inverted Navbar to the top. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to type Inverted Navbar, and I'm going to put this inside of it. That little trick was with the holding down of Option. So I'm going to have a class of navbar, navbar inverse. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this inside of a class called a container. A container is a Bootstrap thing which makes things not take up the whole screen. So just like that. Now I'm going to go see if this has an effect on my app. This should really have an effect on my app. If it doesn't, something is wrong. All right, it's official. Something is definitely wrong. What did I do wrong? Oh, right here. Ref. That's rel. I'll fix that. That's going to make a big impact. There we go. Now everything changed. All right, hopefully for you, you saw changes way before this. So rel right there. Okay. People make mistakes. I could go back and edit it out, but I'm going to leave it just because it just kind of shows, yeah, people make mistakes all the time. All right, so now things are working again. I've got an inverse navbar. I'm going to change the color of the H1 here. The way that I change the color of the H1 is I'm just going to go add some of my own CSS. In general, where you put the CSS, where you, if you can, is you put it right with the component. Here I'm working in the app component, so I've only got one CSS file. Another place you could put it, but don't, is in the styles.css. Styles.css is where you put global styles that apply to all your components. You only put things here if they need to go here, right? Like they need to be applied to everything. Usually you put it right with the component. And so one thing that I choose to do here is that I'm going to change the color to, I don't know, a color that's nearly white. I'll just go with like a DDD, which is almost white. And then there it shows up with the movie quotes. Great. Things are going good. Let's bootstrap up some more things. So the next thing I want to do is I want to kind of like shine up my form here some. So the form stuff is over in the CSS area. And then there's this area called forms. So there's a couple different examples here with forms, and you can just kind of like pick the one that you think looks the best to you, and then just kind of go with that. I think that basic will be enough for me. And the main thing I want to steal is like, you know, what does the syntax look around the form group? So the whole thing is inside of a form. So I guess I could, you know, go ahead and add that much. I give myself some more space here. So I'm going to have a form here. I'll go and put the P tag inside the form too. That's fine. And then this form is going to have these inputs in it. And these inputs have labels inside of them, which is exciting, but it's not actually required. And then it's also got this form class here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to borrow this class and put this onto my inputs. So boom, boom. And then I'm going to delete the insides. And I'm going to make another one of them. So now I've got two. And I'm going to put this input inside of one of them. And I'm going to put this input inside the other of them. And then I'm going to do some auto formatting. So now I've got a form with a form group div that's just kind of a bootstrappy thing. This one's also in a form group div. And I have the class form control. So I'm going to save that up. I'm going to see if that improves my look some. So that improved my look some. I don't like that it's going over to the sides of the screen, so I'm going to have to fix that. So my form right now needs to get wrapped inside of a class that says container. And then I also have to close that div on the bottom. And you could actually do more than that. You could actually put it inside of like kind of like a card. In Bootstrap, they called them, I think, wells. So I'll say well and then well large. So that'll kind of make it look like a card. So go and auto form that. Bootstrap always got in trouble for like having a lot of divs within divs. Cool, that looks like it's going well. It's actually, I'm gonna put this guy over here. Yeah, that kind of looks like something to me now, right? Way to go, Bootstrap. The next thing we're gonna need is a button. So we can go ahead and make a button on here. This button needs a type, so we'll just make it a type button for now. Buttons in Bootstrap, they need classes as well. You could go look this up, but I've got it written down. I'm just going to type it. BTN default, and then I'm also going to put on a pull right to make it kind of right justified. So that looks like the important things there, and then this is going to be a submit button. Now you might notice that right now it's a regular button, but that's okay. We're going to fix that at some point. So that looks pretty good, with the one exception is that it kind of went outside of my box, so I can fix that. And the reason it went outside of my box is because pull right uses floats, which is a whole thing that I don't even want to get into. But Bootstrap had a fix for it. You just have to add a class clear fix to a div, and then it'll make sure that your float doesn't leave the container. So cool, that looks pretty good. So now what we want is we want this button to have a click listener. So we're going to do the same thing that we've always done, and we'll just say on submit. So call a function on submit, and then we'll go make that function over in TypeScript so that it doesn't crash and burn. Oops, that's the wrong one. Did not mean to open up the module. So over here, let's just go and add a function called on submit. It's going to return nothing. Oops. And let's just go ahead and put a log in here. So it just says CLG you wish to submit. And we'll go ahead and say the thing they're submitting. You wish to submit this .movie quote, right? So I just kind of wanted to prove that, you know, if you type something in there, it already knows in TypeScript what it is because of the data binding. So if like we type test and then a bunch of M's down here, it says, you wish to submit this object. It's got a quote of test and a movie of MMMMMM. Cool, that looks pretty good. So things are going well, right? So if I hit submit here, it says you wish to submit the empty string, right? Let's fix that up. Let's do a commit first. So this is really just adding a little Bootstrap, right? So adding a little bit to the look of the app. I'll tell you what, since this change is so superficial about look, I'm going to go and use this as an opportunity to set the fave icon. So I'm going to save image as. So I went to rolesholman.edu/fave icon so that I could set my fave icon. And then I'm just going to save it into the exact right spot, right? So for me, that's my ngFire movie quotes git repository, and then source, and then right there is my fave icon. So I'm going to save it right on there. Do I want to replace it? You bet I do. That's the whole point of me doing this, right? Cool. And then in order to get that change to actually happen, you'll probably have to close the tab and reopen the tab, and you'll make it work. All right, so this is my superficial change. So this is improve the look of my app. Then the next thing we're going to do, it's going to be fairly short, so I'm just going to sneak it into this video. And that is that we're not really using the fact that we're in a form to our advantage, right? So this button, it just has a click listener, like any button has a click listener. It's calling on submit, but it's not really using the form to the fullest. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take off the click listener down here. So it's gone. Oops, scrubbed a little too much there at first. So I just wanted to kill that part and didn't want to kill my word in there. I'm going to choose to put it up on the previous line as well. Maybe you can see it if I do that. And so instead of type button, I'm going to make this of type submit. And then up on my form, I'm going to have it do the submit. Now instead of click, when you do it up here, you actually type something different. You type ng submit. So, and then it's going to call the same function on submit. So what just happened here? We moved it from a click listener on the button to the form being submitted. That actually does one thing that I care about, and that is form submit if you hit enter inside the inputs. So it will auto submit if you hit enter. And I really like that difference. There's ways we could have added that, but I kind of like this this as well. There's also an opportunity to do a little bit more. And so what we can do is we can actually like say that these fields are required. So we can say, hey, this input is required. This input is required. We're going to label this form as being the movie quote form. So there's a couple things going on here. This hashtag movie quote form, this makes like a local variable inside the HTML. If you do just this hashtag without equals anything, like if I were to do just that, it would make a local variable to this HTML element. But what I want to do is I want to make a local variable to the ng form that actually is like bound up with this form, right? So now here's what this lets me do is now I can use this form in other ways. So one thing I can do is, for example, this button, I could decide if it's disabled or not. So it's disabled, if the movie quote form is not valid. And I think the way you do it is you say .form.valid. I think it works with or without the .form in there, but I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. So now you can see that my submit button is disabled. So now if I try to submit something, it doesn't allow it. And then once I write those things, then it'll actually like say you wish to submit those things. Now you'll notice that it doesn't clear the form off. I mean, that's obviously something that we could do and something that we'll do later, but we could do it now. So what we could do is right here, we could just go ahead and make this .movie quotes be an empty movie quote again. This is one downside of using interfaces. If you use an interface, you don't have a nice, convenient, like, new movie quote. If we had used a class, we could have easily made this thing faster. So let's go ahead and see what we've got now. So I've made this change. I save it up. So now we've got the submit button is disabled. So I type some things up here, and then I type some things down here, and then I hit submit, and you'll see like it did my log. It didn't really submit it, right? So this is kind of like a to-do, submit that thing. But you can see that we've got a good placeholder set up, and we've got the disable of the submit button here, and it's all working just fine. Cool, I think that's where I'll cut this video off once I get this checked in. So we added the form, and we used the ng submit on the form instead, and we used the required to say that this thing is not valid until they have values in there. And then we added a little bit of TypeScript just to do a log, and then also to clear off the form. So this is kind of the form ready to go. All right, come back next time and we'll do some more work with like reading data. See you then. Bye.